Welcome back, everybody. This is HolliwoodKole here for another smooth ramblings. We're here with Nick Thymianos again. What is going on, man?
Not much, my friend. How are you?
Doing well, dude. I'm glad you could join us again. Thanks for jumping in, dude, on such a short notice.
Yeah, it's not a problem at all, man. I got really excited, actually, when you called. I'm like, oh, we got another one coming. So.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. We're getting really excited about these podcasts lately, and I was like, oh, gosh, I got to get Nick back on here. It was good last time. So you guys know Nick from last time. If you haven't heard, go back and check out the third Smooth Ramblings. Or he's a ex-game designer, indie games author. So an all-around just good dude. So welcome back, dude. We are so glad that you're here. And we talked about on the last one, just kind of if you want to be a game designer, you can listen to that one. It'll tell you all the ins and outs of it and kind of where to get started, stuff like that. So I thought that was a pretty good deal there. But today we're going to talk about the Octopath Traveler, man, for the Nintendo Switch, and just kind of some 16-bit RPG. So if you're an RPG fan, you'll like this one. And I wanted to lay this one down a long time ago because Octopath Traveler came out. It was just like a gas fire, just, and then it's gone just as fast as it kind of hit. So it's a little bit old news, but I've been meaning to lay this one down because at least on Twitter, it was just people were going nuts over it, man. Did you know anything about this game? Have you heard about it or?
So when I was working, right after I got out of the military, I was working at Target for a little bit, and one of the dudes there was just raving about Octopath. It didn't come out yet, but I never heard anything about it until he was telling me, and he's like, you need to check this out. It's got multiple characters with different stories that they all interline together, and it's like old school JRPG. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's been a while since I played any of that. So I waited until it came out. I did pick it up.
Okay.
I just haven't had really an opportunity to play it. Like, I'm still literally in the first hour of the game. But I love.
Oh, so you played a little bit of it. So.
Right.
Okay.
And I love the art style with the game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, when I first played it, I knew it was coming out. It's Square Enix. So let's get a little bit of background here first. Mm-hmm. So Squaresoft back in the day, so a lot of people will say that the Super Nintendo is the king of all RPGs. If you're an RPG fan and you grew up in the Super Nintendo era, you were like in heaven,
Oh, yeah.
Because all these great games, we're talking about Final Fantasy II, Final Fantasy III, Chrono Trigger, Illusions of Gaia, I'll even say Lagoon, or stuff like that. In Zelda, I don't consider an RPG. Some people do, but let me think of some other ones. Secret of Mana.
Secret of Evermore, yeah.
Secret of Evermore, yep. So we got Final Fantasy II, Squaresoft. Final Fantasy III, Squaresoft. Chrono Trigger, Squaresoft. Secret of Mana, Squaresoft. Secret of Evermore was Squaresoft America. Their one game they ever released. Mm-hmm. And what else did Squaresoft? They did for Super Nintendo. I'm maybe missing a couple. But either way, those were gold. And you knew, it rolled over to PlayStation as well. And you knew when there's a Squaresoft game, it was going to be money. Mm. So I loved everything about those games. I owned all of those, except for Evermore. I do have it now. But anyway, you knew it was going to be gold. So then Enix was another company, and they did all the Dragon Quest games, the Dragon Warriors, stuff like that, and they decided to merge. That's where you got Square Enix. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We're going to kind of go back to that soon. But Square Enix, hey, we're going to release Octopath Traveler on the Switch. We're going back to 16-bit look, so it's actually an HD, what's the term, HD 2D, 2D HD, or something like that. It's like
I think that's what they touted it as.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. The music's beautiful. The art style's beautiful. The characters are cool in terms of what they can do. So I'm waiting for this great big story, man, from Square Enix. And they just kind of released it, and they said, we're not... And we talked about this a little bit on an H&K, but they just kind of released it and said, hey, there's no downloadable content for it. This is a completed game, which I liked. I respected that. So, it's out, and I've played 43 hours of it. Yeah, and it blew up. Okay, so the way that it works is you get to pick from 8 different characters. That's what's called Octopath, excuse me. That's why it's called Octopath, okay? And the characters are, which is kind of cool, I didn't know this, but characters are Ophelia, Cyrus, Teresa, Ulbrich, Primrose, Alphen, Therion, and Honnet. And they all, if you spell those out, the first letter, it spells Octopath. So all of the characters' names put together spell Octopath, kind of a cool little hidden thing. But, they got a cleric, standard stuff. Cleric, warrior, there's a dancer, a thief, a hunter, because these are classic. Well, now you got an apothecary, which is cool, a merchant, which you've seen in a few, and a scholar, and you may have seen in a couple. And I like the way that they kind of did that and all the different characters, and you can, mix and match your party. You can pick any way. You pick one character to start with, and that's your main. And then he goes through his 4 chapters. There's 4 chapters each. You can pick up the other characters along the way, and you can continue through their 4 chapters. And I think that's where I got burnt out, man, because I think you're supposed to pick one and then just kind of go, get the characters you want, come back and replay it again with a different character. I don't know. Who'd you start off with?
Well, like I said, I only got like an hour into the game, but I picked the Hedge Knight, like the Disgraced Knight.
Oh, yeah, Ulbrich.
Yeah. So I picked him. The other one that actually caught my attention was the Apothecary. I thought I was going to start with the Hedge Knight first, Ulbrich, and go from there. But I don't know. I just haven't had really an opportunity to actually get started on it. But it, like you said, a lot of that stuff was, square mated. It's, going back to its roots, and that's what I'm fired up for. I was just waiting for a good time to get started on it.
Oh, yeah. And so as soon as I turned it on, I got Therion, the thief, because one of my favorite characters is Locke from Final Fantasy 3 or 6. He's one of my favorite video game characters of all. So I'm just trying to figure out how I want to present this, because 43 hours in, and I just got tired of it. It starts off so good with the music and the characters, like, okay, this is going to be great, but essentially will turn into, let's say, one thing they did a lot of stuff really good, and I know I'm just kind of blowing through this here, so I don't mean to put forth either that Octopath Traveler is a bad game. It is not a bad game. It's a great game. You need to go get it. You need to go check it out. But there's just one key thing that's missing that we're going to talk about. But let's say Therion, he's a thief, so you can go talk to people in town and steal stuff, right? So the Y button is kind of all the characters' special abilities that they can use in town and stuff. So it's actually not just, you don't have to just be in a fight to steal. You can, like Ophelia is the cleric, so she can lead people, by inspiring them to follow. So now you got an extra party member or whatever. Scholar can inquire, and the Apothecary can, what is his special? It's the same thing as the Scholar, but it's, let's see, it doesn't say, and I can't remember what it is called. But anyway, it's the same thing. You just get information from them, from the townspeople. But while you're stealing, so it just tends to go like this every time, man. You go to a new town. Okay, here's what you're doing. We got to figure this part of the story out, and then it kind of releases you back into the town, and you got to use whatever character's story it is, all his special ability, to steal. Okay, I got to steal a couple things from the townspeople. Then I can continue the story. Then I'm done with that chapter, and I go walk around. I go find the next chapter, talk to the guy, gets the story going. About halfway through the story, I got to stop. I got to walk through town. I got to steal something. It's the same thing over and over for each one of these characters. It gets a little dull. But here's the main problem that I think with this game, and it got great reviews, like 9s and 8s. Metacritic, I actually got the reviews right here. Metacritic gave it an 83 out of 100. Destructoid was the lowest, a 7.5 out of 10. GameStop's 8 out of 10. IGN is 9.3 out of 10. So, like I said, it's not a bad game. However, I mentioned these other games for Super Nintendo before because the story is phenomenal in all of those games. Not so much in Octopath. Octopath is, and it may just have not been meant to be a big story. What I was expecting from this Square Enix game is to get all 4 of these characters, or 8 of these characters together. You see their little bits of story, and then all of a sudden we find the common enemy and we all band together and see how these characters react to it. You know what I'm saying? And that was definitely my favorite part about Final Fantasy 3 and 2 and Chrono Trigger and all these kind of games. So I don't know, man. What do you think about these old school games with Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy? I mean, what was your favorite part about those?
So, like, I'm totally on board with you with everything that you said from the old school RPGs from the Super Nintendo era. My biggest thing was Chrono Trigger. That was the game that solidified my love for RPGs. It was, truly believe, the most perfect game like ever made for that era. Like everything from the story and the characters and the music was amazing. Like, yeah, you would really have to go out of your way to find out any type of faults for that game for its time. I mean, sure, if you try to compare it with today's standards, maybe, yeah, or I mean, I even loved Chrono Cross. Like, that was an amazing game to me. I think that was much more of an emotional game for me compared to the first one. But I'm going off tangent here. But I really loved Chrono Trigger because of everything it brought to the table, and that's something that like I wanted to hold square for that standard.
Yeah.
To Chrono Trigger, and I personally don't feel like they've really held up to that past the PS2 days, but
yeah.
I mean, I felt like the first RPG I ever played with Square was Secret of Mana. I really enjoyed it. I love that game too. Different type of gameplay, but again, it was like the strong story, and that was what was nice about Square, is that they had an incredible emphasis on story. Like, the gameplay was there. Like, a lot of the early Final Fantasy games didn't change much in the gameplay, and they just added just a little bit. And so then there was that much more of the emphasis on the art style, and that much more of the emphasis on the just the unity of everything just coming together. Like, I think with you started seeing the changes coming with Evermore, like you said, because of Square America. So I don't know, whenever I just think of Chrono Trigger, though, it's very near and dear to my heart. Like, I want to be buried with my cartridge when that day comes. That's how much I love it.
Yeah, it's one of it's always between the two, Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy 3. Did you play Final Fantasy 3?
You know what? People are going to hate me. No, I did not. I know. I won't lie, I do have it somewhere, but the thing is I got introduced to Chrono Trigger and everything before I got to touch Final Fantasy 3. Like, I didn't get into Final Fantasy until 7. Yeah. That was my entry, and like, again, 7 and 8 are near and dear to my heart in terms of the Final Fantasy games. But yeah, I am ashamed that I never got to play 3, and I know it's a great game, so I won't discredit that.
Oh man, it's just the thing I like about it's Chrono Trigger's the same way. I mean, those are, if you really have to say which one is your favorite, it just has to be 3, and it's probably, and if I'm being completely objective to which one is a better game, I don't know, but just wherever I was in life at the time, wherever I played Final Fantasy 3, I'm like, it's just so full of adventure and stuff. And I think I was probably, when did it come out? 94, 90, yeah, it may come out in 92. Let me just look it up.
I think in 94, because Chrono Trigger came out in 95.
Yeah, 94.
Mm-hmm.
So, so you're, seventh grade, 8th grade, and just like, the world is opening up here, and you're old enough to understand it, but still, young enough to just dream big, and you're like, dude, this is just so, I mean, my imagination just runs wild with these characters and all this adventure that they're having. You're like, man, when I just want to go out into the world and live this adventure, it just was so cool. But what I really liked about that was that it's characterization, is what it's called. I mean, that's an art form to do characterization. If you look at like Hollywood, Martin Scorsese is known for his characterizations, like in Goodfellas, Casino. They would go so deep into all the details of how a character will act, like Jimmy the Gent, the Robert De Niro character in Goodfellas. They were, I mean, you can go watch the behind the scenes and like, how would Jimmy, get ketchup out of a ketchup bottle? He would bang it a couple of times and he'd get a knife and go in there. All those things that they really boiled down to, and not necessarily what I'm talking about with Final Fantasy, but what I'm getting at is that's the detail they went into to how these characters, they were portraying every little thing about them and how they would react in certain situations. And you really dig into their just who these people are and how they react in situations. Final Fantasy VI and even Chrono Trigger did that very well. You got Locke, you got Terra. Terra's the first character introduced to in Final Fantasy VI, and she's part Esper, and she's can use magic, and magic is something that nobody's seen, in a long time. Well, the Empire found it, and they're trying to harness it, right? So she's kind of conflicted on what's good and what's bad, and Loki's the thief, the noble thief. He likes to be referred to as a treasure hunter, not a thief. And he kind of takes her under his wing, and they go on the adventure. Well, then you run into the King of Figaro and his brother, who doesn't want to have anything to do with the throne. You see all these just different storylines coming together to fight this one common enemy, Kefka. It's just a super bad guy, and it's got military stuff in there and all this. Well, then Kefka just basically turns into a god and destroys the world, and now you got a whole nother world ahead of you. But there's like 12 or 15 characters in the whole game, and they all have a similar storyline that you can track down and follow, but it's how they react to things, common things, and how they work together and how they change throughout the story. I love that. In the same way with Chrono Trigger, Luca and the Robo, and they got, Robo's, am I real? Can I feel? And Luca's the scientist and trying to help him, and Magnus. And then you got Frog, who's, did I kill Magnus or not? I'm a frog, and I turn it, Magnus wants to be good now.
Frog is definitely one of my favorite characters in that game. Like, his whole backstory as Glenn and everything. I was conflicted whether I wanted to kill Magus, but it was just I ended up keeping Magus for the most part, but different playthroughs I probably killed him once to cure him, and then after that I definitely wanted to keep him because he was a great, they're both tragic in their own way, but where Glenn is this tragic hero, then you got Magus as this tragic anti-hero. Like, he was a villain for the right reasons kind of thing. Like, he was doing it to get back to his time and all that jazz, and I loved it. That's why I fell in love with every character. They had
absolutely
every one of them had their point.
When they go to that so before I jump too far ahead, but Frog and Magnus. So what he's talking about, if you never played it, Frog was transformed. So Glenn was transformed into a frog. He's like a noble knight from, you kind of travel through time and all this, from like the 600 AD or something. And then Magus turned him into that frog. So in order to turn back human, he has to kill Magus. Well, at one point you get the chance to fight him or let him live. And Magus has had a change of heart at the time to make it even more of a difficult decision. But he's a cool character too. He's just like, I'm willing to fight, whatever you want to do. And I understand either way, kind of thing like that. And I just kind of get that sense. And then if you fight him, you can cure Glenn, but he will not join your party. Magus will not. And so this is all in the ending. So there's like multiple different endings. But I mean, just what the point, this is my point too, man. I mean, just what we're talking about here with Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger. I mean, I can just kind of see you coming to life even when you think back on Chrono Trigger, these memories and just of the story and stuff that's near to dear to your heart. And Octopath Traveler does not have that, I'm afraid. It does not have that capturing story and rapturing story, or whatever you want to say. And that's a little bit of a shame. I wish it did. It starts off like it will, but it never kind of comes full circle. But I'm hoping, I know that they're going to make another one. This game flew off the shelves. It was sold out in Japan for the first 2 weeks. It sold more than like any game, definitely any Switch game right in the first weekend in Japan. It's at the top. It sold 1 million copies in like a month, so it's at the top of all the bestseller list for a Switch. So I'm hoping that Square Enix will, and everybody will take note. And you can see a lot of indie guys doing this, making these 16-bit games like this. They've been doing it for a long time. I mean, hopefully they'll see this and go, man, if we could really just lay down a great story, and like we did in the old days, and we can really crush it. I hope that's what happens, and they can make a whole new Chrono Trigger or something like that. I
am still waiting. I don't think I will see another Chrono Trigger sequel in my lifetime, honestly.
Yeah. I mean,
I want it, but
what's going on? It's just weird. Where are these stories going? Why can't anybody recreate them? Even a Final Fantasy 2, Final Fantasy 3. Where are these stories? Do people just not care anymore? They want more action. I have no idea.
I think back then they worked with what little they had, and so they put this emphasis on great story, and then now Square's fallen. I think personally, Square's fallen into that thing that they're doing more for production values. Like, yeah. I stopped playing Final Fantasy after 10, and I've always wanted to play 12 and never had an opportunity to. And then I saw my friend play 13, which would look like absolute garbage, but I'm still very confused that they made 2 sequels to that. When people have been begging for Final Fantasy VII Remake, which I'm excited that they're doing, yet I'm still terrified because it's a completely different game altogether.
Right.
15, I think, is unique, but I did get bored with it really quick. I think it's because, don't get me wrong, I know it's a Japanese game, but I'm not a big fan of the anime art style or mannerisms or voice acting, because it's unique to that genre of art. So like I don't know, I guess I outgrew it, so it's like very, very difficult for me to get into it. Something about a very emo main character making snide comments about them dying, and they're the ones that can teleport in the air and can take out bosses that are as big as a skyscraper, and you're like, ho hum, like, oh, it breaks. I guess it breaks the immersion for me, because I'm like, you are practically a demigod and you can fix this. So why are you acting like this? I don't know. So that was my issue with it.
But speaking about story with Final Fantasy 15, I really enjoyed the combat and all that, and the items and the whole game itself. But I'm kind of like you. It's really kind of different. You got 4. It's supposed to be the 4 bros road trip, and that's the whole game. And I enjoyed 15. I've platinumed it. I played all the way through, and if I platinum it, that just means I wanted to take the time. If I don't platinum the game, it means, hey, I don't feel like it's worth. It's just my personal thing. If I platinum it, it means I kind of give it like a tip to the hat to the game or developers. But I enjoyed all of it. I didn't get any of the downloadable content and all that. But I'm just saying, if they had a story like Chrono Trigger, like Final Fantasy or Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, any of that in that game, it would be phenomenal. But I didn't even understand the story. You had to watch a movie before. They had a movie out or something about it before. So you had to watch that and to really understand what's going on. But I see what you're saying about the emo character, and I think you'd mentioned that before. But yeah, it's not. Are the characters? Are they developing? That's really the main thing. Is the thief learning? Okay, being a thief is not that good. I need to protect people. Or if they're struggling with that, or is a king struggling with his rule? He doesn't want to rule people. Or like you said, the hedge knight, like Cyan from Final Fantasy VI, where he didn't have a kingdom to guard now. He failed, and he's got to regroup or whatever. It's just stuff like that. You just see these characters through. You can relate to them. I just wish they would bring that back. In what I was going to say before, at film school, it sounds crazy when you just kind of say it and don't even think about it. But, films used to be in black and white. TV was in black and white. They didn't have color. And then when color came out, when the technology for color came out, there's a lot of directors and producers that were really big in a film that said, now we've ruined movies. Movies will not be art anymore. And you're kind of like, what are you talking about? And it's because now we're seeing and they kind of got the idea, hey, special effects are going to start taking over, but it's just like you were saying with Final Fantasy and these old school games. You worked with what you had and you focused on the story. Just like when you're black and white film, you focus on the story, you focus on the dialogue, you focus on all these things to keep it interesting, because you don't have all the looks and all the big blockbuster cinematics and all this. So they're almost like focusing on the wrong things, maybe. I don't know. But we need to get it back.
Well, something, since we're on the topic of like the 16-bit games, have you played they're both indie games. Have you played like Hyper Light Drifter or even Dead Cells?
I actually just ordered Dead Cells yesterday.
Dead Cells is amazing. It is so hard. I will play for like 2 hours and I'll die multiple times and I will scream and I will cuss. I will rage quit and then I will log back in like 2 minutes later. That game is incredible. Like it's like my guilty pleasure next to the Shadow of Mordor games.
My gosh, it's so. I just got Shadows of Mordor too, and I'm like, I'm ready to get. When I get off this podcast, I'm going straight to it, dude. I played it one night. It's phenomenal.
It's so satisfying. Yeah, I love the I know we're talking off here, but I love that. Like, if I'm having a rough day, I'll load that game up. I will go to an area that has I'll just go to a stronghold and set off the alarm, and I'll just go ham on all the orcs, and then I'll be done. I'll clear that spot, and I'm like, my day is done. I am good to go, and then I could call it a night from there. But the 16-bit though, like Dead Cells, you'll love that game. I promise you that. The only thing I'm worried about a little bit is the roguelike. So I didn't like. I mean, I played. Don't get me wrong. I played Rogue Legacy. What was that game? Where it's the same thing. Whatever it redoes the entire dungeon at random every time you come back in. Yeah. So, well, with that one, it does randomize every time you die. Yeah. But everything you've unlocked in between the levels, so like all the cells that you've gotten, all the blueprints and formulas or whatever, once you pass that level, you'll go to an area where you spend those points and then you turn in the equipment. So that stays with you. So then, like, if you were to die in the next zone, all the stuff that you unlocked before then is available when you're like hunting and running around. And that's the whole game is trial and error, and that's what's so exciting about it. Hyper Light Drifter, now I never got a chance to finish it, but I was really enamored with it because there's a story, but it's very minimal. And like, if you just kind of like pay attention to like the setting, and then how your main character, who doesn't speak, like all the characters have like unintelligible language. I mean, there's some little text here and there, but like you're picking up visual cues, and then you see like the main character, he's slowly dying and like coughing up blood, and I think he's just trying to get a cure or whatever. But I mean, it's again they're working with what they got, and they have, like it's just like an excellent storytelling medium that they're doing just by just saying little. So like everything else you see, just like it's deafening, like the scope of what's going on. Yeah,
I know exactly. I didn't touch it. I know exactly the game you're talking about. I think the graphics design, the whatever art style, kind of threw me off a little bit. I wasn't too big of a fan of it. Just seeing pictures of it though. Like I actually was looking on the Switch to find a cool game to buy. I'm playing Golf Story, which is super fun. And I ordered Dead Cells, the physical copy. I wanted a physical copy of it because it just looked awesome. I mean, and it is a roguelike, but I mean, it's fine. I like the other one. It's one of those that, like you said, you can kind of just sit there. I can take it portable, go sit in the den or something with the kids in there, everybody around or whatever, and you can just play it. You die, so what? Every stuff's unlocked or whatever. You just to be expected. But yeah, I wanted something like that, and I actually turned on Octopath to say, let me just turn on and see how many hours I got, and maybe I'll do a little bit of the story. And I was like, nah, I'm good. But the only reason I keep bringing up this Octopath, man, and I'm not trying to crush the game, but I am a little bit disappointed that it didn't have a good story. And if you are a retro gamer, which I would think a lot of people are that buy this game, just play it for what it is. It's going to be 8 different characters that have 8 different separate stories. They don't intertwine. There's subtle hints that they kind of do, but it's, from my understanding, it's not going to be a big, oh, now I see that they were all, what it would be, the Octo twins, and and whatever, some kind of weird story, and they were separated at birth, and now they're joining back together to form the one spirit that's supposed to kill the evil god of the game that's been keeping everybody down, or something like that. It's not anything like that. It's just 8 separate stories. Play it, enjoy it for that. But I think as a retro gamer, I kind of expected, I guess I just not expected necessarily, but just hoped that, we're going to have another Final Fantasy. We're going to have another Chrono Trigger, or something as close to it as we can. And I'm trying to remember the name of that game. this people released it on Sega back in. It's after Sega is long gone. They put it out on Sega, put it out on Super. I don't know if it's on Super Nintendo, but it's an aftermarket cart, and you can buy it on anything now. You can go on PlayStation 4 and get it. Now I got to look it up. I don't know.
Phantasy Star?
Yeah, it's not It's like a old school 16-bit, actual real one that has a story. And I'll be honest, I hadn't got that deep into it. So, but speaking of like old stuff like that, old RPGs, 16-bit RPGs with a good story. I've gone back. I never played the Phantasy Stars on Sega, but I got it on the 360, the little Sega thing, and I'll go back and start them, and I enjoy them. I mean, I played all of them. I played Phantasy Star 2, and really kind of got hooked into it, So the story is very gripping, man. I don't know. Some people don't want a story in a game. They probably don't play any RPGs. If you don't like story, you don't play RPGs, probably. But I don't know. That's just my take on it, man.
Well, I mean, I guess there's a different game for everybody, but yeah, the RPGs. I mean, I play RPGs for the story. I like when I heard about Fallout 76, I'm like, okay, well, I'm excited to play with other people, but how are the RPG elements going to be presented in the game? And then I'll see when the game comes out now, but I guess there's a time and place for whatever game that you want to get, so I guess that's why they're doing that shift. But I do miss the emphasis on story in the earlier days of video games. But I mean, they still have them to this day. I mean, there's still some excellently written games like Last of Us, and I hear the new God of War has a great story too. I'm excited to play that soon. So I don't know. Yeah,
that God of War, man, I platinum that one, dude.
Yeah.
When I say I platinum, I just mean, dude, it's just that good of a game. I mean, I went back and there's crows that, it's kind of like, there's these little crows called the Eyes of Odin. They're just kind of singing around, whatever. It's like hidden, you go, oh, there's one. You got to throw your axe at them or whatever. And there's like 50 of them, throughout the whole game. That's how you unlock. I don't know if you unlock anything. It's just more of you get, I don't know if you unlock something or not, but anyway. But stuff like that, I had to go back and find them, treasures and all these other little side quests of the game. It was so much fun to go back and do. So you'll love that game, dude. But I kind of feel bad that I didn't know. I mean, Clear had told me about Shadows of Mordor a long time ago. He was like one of the first ones to have it in our little circle, but he was trying to tell me about it, and it was at GameStop for like $10, and I was like, dude, I got to get it. And man, I was playing Yakuza, and Yakuza is fun. It's a great game. It just didn't really hook me, but Shadows of Mordor, I was like, oh man, it is. I don't know what it is about. I go into a group of orcs though, and then I get like 3 or 4 captains all over me, So I'm like, I got to run now. I mean, am I supposed to be able to kill those right away?
Oh well, now I get excited. I mean, I played like on the hardest setting now. They've released, I think, a brutal mode, and it is.
It's very hard, brutally difficult.
Yeah, it's masochistic, like the way you play. And if you got like 3 of them, and they all have different like kind of abilities that you just cannot counter, or you got that one guy that he just like one shots you no matter what, and then you don't have a second chance. Like, so if they kill you, and then they get even stronger, and then you got to find them. Is that
what your strategy is? If one of them kills you, you go after him right away before he does anything else?
Usually it just depends, but there have been times where like I get killed from the dude, and then I'll respawn. I'll just jump down from whatever pillar I spawned from, and then I'll just go, and then he's right there. And then all of a sudden he's got a clone right there with him, and you're like, what? And then you got 3 more guys, like and then another, like one of the dudes that you took over, he betrays you, like he'll tackle you. He's like, I wanted to get on you too. And there's like 3 or 4, and you're like,
yeah.
So then you call your grog, you call a dragon, you try to get everything all at once, and then man, it's that can be intense because, like you said, like you run, but I don't try to run away. I try to run circles, or like I try to go in stealth and pick them off one at a time.
Yeah. It seems like it's one of those games where you gotta kind of walk. At least for me, at first, I'm really. I guess my guy's kind of weak, but I gotta kind of be stealthy at first. Unless there's like 4 or 5, But if it's usually if one of them sees me, next thing I know, there's like 40. I don't know what it is.
When I first started playing Shadow War, I died a lot the first 10 hours of the game. I died almost every captain. There was one captain that literally chased me to different zones and kept killing me. He was an archer. And then he kept killing me. There was no chance that I could win, and he kept getting stronger. And then finally I was able to kill him. I decapitated him. And then not 10 seconds after I kill him, again, he spawns right next to me with an iron plate on his face, and he's like, "Oh, you thought you got me?" I'm like, "What is going on?" And then he was immune to counters, and I'm like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me!" So then I had to run away. He kept killing me again. So it was like this.
To counters.
Oh my goodness, something along those lines. But he was brutal. Now I got to reinstall the game. I don't think it's installed right now. I got to have to play it now. But oh man, I love it.
It is a great game.
I thank my buddy Steve. I showed you my he got me a signed copy from everybody from the dev team, right?
You didn't show me, but I thought you were mentioning that.
Oh man, here I gotta show that baby off now. Where is it? I played it on the computer, but he sent me an Xbox One copy, and let's see, is it showing? Okay.
Oh, dude, that looks good, man. It's the black case with silver. People signed in silver on there. Oh, all over it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
that's nice, dude. Is that on the clear part outside, or is it on the inside of that?
Oh, he wrote it on the sleeves.
Okay.
Yeah, he had everybody write it on the sleeves, so it was pretty awesome.
Oh, wow, man. So he works over there? Is that what?
Yeah, he works at Monolith.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that is awesome. Well, cool, man. Appreciate you joining. Like I said, short notice and just kind of chopping up these quick RPGs, man. I just kind of want to bounce some stuff off of you because I know you're a fan.
Yeah, but...
And I didn't know that you had just gotten Octopath. I hope I didn't ruin it for you.
No, you didn't. I'm like I told you before, it was the anime style kind of puts it off, but I'm excited to play it. But my Switch is more if we go road tripping.
Yeah.
So I'll take that with me kind of thing, and I'll play that. The only reason I got the Switch is for Zelda, and I made sure I played that all the way through, but I know that Octopath is going to be something like a leisure thing.
Yeah, and it's great. The way they did combat to make it turn-based, and you get the extra points and stuff like that. They did a great job with that. The combat is fun. It's turn-based combat, and they actually made it fun. It makes you have a lot of strategy involved with it instead of just picking spells or whatever. So I hope they take that and turn it into something great because they can. So, but anyway, all right. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we'll get you with another H&K coming up. Probably, I think we're trying to do the Grifted Monster Hunter. He's got some world records there. Does a lot of YouTube videos and stuff like that. But we'll get talking to him. Really chop up Monster Hunter. We're trying to coordinate that this week. And then we got a special one coming out. I won't give any more away from that because some of these aren't coordinated good. But just keep in touch with what we're releasing. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so that way you'll get it as soon as it drops. But the next couple weeks should be pretty exciting. So just stay tuned. But anyway, thanks again.